Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by Dominic Ingle. Predominantly to preview the big fight, the last big fight of the year, this Saturday between Canelo Alvarez and Callum Smith for the Super WBA and vacant WBC Super Middleweight titles. First of all, how excited are you about this fight and how close to a 50-50 do you make it?
Yeah, it's a cracking fight. It's a cracking fight. I mean, we've had some good fights this year. One being Dubois and Joyce, I thought was a good fight. And instead of waiting for years and years to get these fights, people are getting put in and getting tested. And it's no different for Smith against Canelo. They both haven't boxed for about a year. And, Callum Smith, he wasn't a great fight last time out with John Ryder. And Canelo's, wasn't against an aging Kovalev. It would have been nice to see Kovalev in his prime with Canelo, because I think it would have been a different story. But as I've always said, boxing's about time. It's about getting the right fighter at the right time. I think it is a 50-50 fight. I mean, I'm going to go with Canelo because Canelo's had a lot more fights. He's got a lot of experience and he's been more consistent over time. But it's not beyond Callum Smith to win. He's got the height and the reach. And, people might laugh at this. Regardless of what people think about Joe Gallagher, he does have good game plans. It might not have worked with Scott Quigg against Frampton, but it's down to whether the fighter can implement it. And I was in camp when Liam Smith was fighting Munguia, and we had a few kids. We had Jason Quigley sparring with him, and Liam Smith looked good. And, the shots they were working on, to avoid and to throw. Joey got off to a tee, and the shots that he actually got stopped with were the shots that Joe was saying avoid. He actually just got caught with them. So they knew what they were doing, and, if Callum Smith's got anything about him, he's got to have patience. He's got to use his reach and height advantage and keep distance and never let Canelo anywhere near him. He's got to be like, for me, it's got to be a 12-round boring fight of him just using the jab. That's what you're going to do, and it's going to be down to Canelo to draw him into a fight. And if Smith can be patient, keep composed, and have belief in himself, he's got to use his natural attributes. He can win. It's going to be hard being away from home. Canelo's been in some dodgy fights when he's got decisions he probably shouldn't have, but it's been a bit close. So it's going to be hard for Callum Smith. But, both of the last fights are nothing to go on. It's going to be, and I know for a fact, when you're boxing in a world title fight, you do go up 1 or 2 levels. And I think that's what Callum Smith's going to do. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a close fight. If Callum Smith's not careful and he gets drawn in, he could get stopped, I think. And not because I don't think he's weaker. If he just starts fighting the wrong fight, Canelo's, he's going to have to work into body. He's going to have to bring him down. He's used to, as a small guy, he's always used to fighting taller guys. But Callum Smith can just use his natural attributes and keep it long. He's got a very good chance of winning.
So a bit like, I don't know, Winky Wright against Felix Trinidad, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That kind of. He's got to be smart boxing. He's got to be very, very small. And hopefully, through the lockdown, he hasn't been disheartened and just got into 10 weeks for this camp or whatever. Hopefully, he's been ticking over. I don't know. I don't really follow many boxers on social media, but if I thought I had a fight like that looming, and as a trainer, I would make sure that guy, if he was in the mix only as a 50-50, because it was toss up between him and Billy Joe Saunders, then I would have made sure as a trainer and emphasised to him, that you've got to be in camp. And I'll be honest with you, no matter what the money was, Callum Smith is a good fighter. He's the top of his game. Billy Joe Saunders turned the money down when he wasn't right, because it means a lot to Billy to win. It probably means more than money. And, that's how you've got to be as a fighter, I personally think. And if Callum Smith took this fight without not being prepared, then there's no excuses afterwards. You can't say, well, I only had 10 weeks, I had 12 weeks. He was in the mix. There's probably just him and Billy Joe Saunders really in the mix. So, it's a 50-50. That's good odds to be in a training camp and be permanently on it. So hopefully he's used that to his advantage, knowing this fight was going to be possible months ago, and he's kept himself switched on and somewhere near. And he should be in the prime condition of his life.
Billy Joe was set to face Canelo back in May, and that, because of COVID, never happened. And when it was talked about being rescheduled, he wasn't ready to do it at short notice. There was issues. He was looking after elderly grandparents and so on with COVID. How confident were you when that fight was first mooted that Billy Joe would have the style to beat Canelo?
Look, it's him again. Billy has got the style to beat Canelo. He has got the style. But the thing is, look, it's well noted that, Billy blows up in between fights, just like Kell Brook does. And it's mind games. It's, the gaming Billy, aren't they? Canelo's, more or less keeps himself switched on. And they probably thought, well, let Billy unwind a little bit, and we'll chuck a load of money at him, and he'll take the fight. But Billy's got plenty of money. So I don't think the motive is money for Billy. He wants paying what's right, but he's a traveller, and it's all about pride and winning. And he's never been beat. And I don't think there's any money where what Billy would take just to be beat. And I think Billy wants to be. I think he did the right thing not taking that fight. He wasn't fantastic in his last fight. It was a bit rusty, but at least he knows now, after a year out, he's had the rusty fight. He's had the fight, to get, and now he's got to be on it. I was speaking to his nutritionist, Greg Marriott, and they're on it over Christmas because they're expecting a good fight in the new year. So if Billy's switched on, he's with Mark Tibbs, he's down London, he's in a good place. If he can maintain, he can move on from his last fight and keep the momentum, then I think Billy's in a good position for next year. And he'll have a look at this fight with Callum Smith and Canelo, and he'll make his own judgment from that. He'll know where he is. But I think, a prime Billy Joe Saunders, 100% fit, 100% doing it right, would be switched on and beat Canelo.
If Callum Smith does get the job done, it would be an upset, of course, on away soil as well. Where would it rank in terms of great British wins abroad?
Oh, it's got to be the best, hasn't it? It's got to be. It's got to be right up there with Don Curry and Lloyd Honeyghan. It's got to be because Canelo is the golden boy. He's been beat by Floyd Mayweather. He's another smart fight. He got beat by somebody being smarter than him. So it's a fantastic win for somebody like Callum Smith, and it's right up there. He will be the top fighter, and it's not beyond him. It isn't. No matter what anybody thinks, it's not beyond him. So if he can just stick to the plan, I know they'll have got a good plan, and it'll be just very, very interesting. He won the World Super Series or whatever it was. If he can just find his form and beat Canelo, we're all behind him. It's great for British fighters to win them fights. We've had Amir Khan boxing, we've had Rocky Fielding boxing. Have we had Liam Smith boxing?
Yeah, and Matthew Hatton was the first.
Ryan Rhodes. And back in them days, Matthew Hatton, fair play to him, got through 12 rounds. And people say, yeah, but Canelo was a lot younger than. Yeah, but he would been boxing since he was 16 or whatever.
Well, even Ryan made it into the 11th, didn't he?
Right. And I think if Ryan had just, took his time and he'd have got through the rounds, but I think he just went for it a little bit and got caught. So, that's it's when you look at them fights, and Canelo has made big improvements, but Ryan wasn't the peak Ryan Rhodes, and Matthew Hatton wasn't the peak Matthew Hatton. So, Canelo's got experience, hasn't he? He's got experience. He's had like 60-odd fights or whatever it is, whereas Callum's only had about 30-odd. But, maybe as long as he doesn't overawe him, he'll be fine. But use his natural attributes, you know what I mean? That's what he's got to do.
He was a Team GB amateur as well, wasn't he? Competed internationally. So that plays some part, I think. I know this is professional boxing, but Canelo had a very short, if any, amateur career.
Yeah, but that just lends you more to being a good professional. I can remember taking Kell Brook down to the EIS in Sheffield and sparring Callum Smith. I think then he was maybe an 11 stone or whatever. He was absolutely huge. And Kell was I think maybe Kell had 10, 15, maybe 15, 16 professional fight. And it was a good spar. Kelly got the experience through the amateurs and professional, and I can remember thinking, how on earth does he make that weight? He's so tall, and you could see way back then he was talented, and he's obviously grown into a bigger fighter. So he can do it. It's not look at the end of the day, he's two men fighting, and like I say, if you get embroiled with Canelo in a punch up and in close, if you've had it, and he's got to do what I would say he's got to do a Johnny Nelson. He's got to bore everybody to death, keep him on the end of the jab, play it safe, and pick and poke his way through that fight and just score without getting hit. And that's what he's got to do.
And Joe Gallagher said repeatedly in the build-up that he doesn't see Callum Smith getting a decision over in America against Canelo with the sway that he holds. Is that partly mind games, put a seed in the mind of the judges that they have to maybe overcompensate?
Listen, I don't think judges are going to be sweating too much about what Joe Gallagher's got to think, or anybody's got to think. That they're a law unto themselves, as we see with judges, and even the ones in Britain. Sometimes the scoring is wayward. two judges one way and one wide the other, and they're accountable, but they're not accountable to Joe Gallagher. They're not accountable to me. So he can say that, and if he does, if it's a close fight, and he goes 12 rounds and he gets beat on points, Callum Smith still gets a lot of credibility. You know what I mean? He just fall into the category of Golovkin getting beat. If he does, as long as he doesn't get done in early or stopped, he's going to come away from that fight with a lot of credibility. Callum Smith, and he's still got. I know the similar age, 29, but I think Callum Smith's fresh. He's got more fights in him, and much in the same way when Paul Froch got beat in America, in the that competition they had out there. Yeah, the Super Six. He learned a lot from that fight, and he came back and still had good wins after that. So, there's nothing, as long as you're learning from a defeat and you're not getting stopped, Callum Smith's, got, another good couple of years in him.